Tonight is Craig Schulte online, Robert Ash?
David.
David, I can't see our city attorney or other, trying to remember. Sorry, David.
David Asif, yes, thank you.
Thank you, David. I should probably just let you say your name and we'd be better off. So Craig, David, and I think that's it online, right? Okay.
We also have Igor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Listener and Mitch Ryumi. I don't know how to say that one, but Mitch
Would,
The parking license.
Oh, okay.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, Mitch will fully introduce himself later in this conversation. All right, and also Ben Peters, Bill Lovis, myself, Michael Gary, and Mike Roth. So there's our roll call. It is now time for open forum, and if anyone,
Kim.
oh, Kim, sorry, Kim. Just blending in there. If anyone would like to
Hello.
speak for,
I don't know if you can hear me. Igor Lensner.
Can we put him on the big screen too, Patrick?
just one moment, we'll get you on the screen. So just 1 second. We are about to begin open forum. And with that, if anyone in the room would like to speak, please come up to the microphone and, of course, identify yourself. And if there's anyone online as well, and the way my screen view is now set, I can see if you'd like to signal for open forum. So, thank you. So with that, is anyone here for open forum?
Igor has raised his hand.
All right, Igor, if you would, please.
I learned a new tool just now. Madam Mayor, members of the council, Igor Lensner, Lincoln Noonan Law Firm in St. Cloud on behalf of Bjorkberg, who's the applicant on a PUD application, which is up for consideration again tonight. I don't want to take a long time, and I didn't know if you were going to allow comments during that part of the agenda, so I thought it would be appropriate to speak quickly now. The application that was made was a planned unit development, and in the city, as you folks know, the planned unit development is a conditional use, and conditional uses are generally uses that we look at and say, hey, these uses are probably okay in this district. There may be items that we need to address and conditions imposed to make sure that that is, in fact, the case. The property that was proposed for development is a block of property that was originally platted, I believe, in 1917. So it's sat only partially developed for the last 100 years, as some of the lots around it have been, as the rest of the city developed around it. When we were before the council previously, I was in attendance at those meetings, either watching or they're on screen live, but not in person. The issues that were raised at that time, a couple of them, one was, I recall many of the neighbors being concerned about who would be buying these homes, who are these homes for, would they be for vacation rentals, would they be second homes for people from the Twin Cities, etc. That issue was addressed by the applicant one in the HOA documents and in its city application, specifically saying that it was not going, the homes were not going to be available for vacation rentals, overnight vacation rentals. There was a rental provision, but it was for long-term rentals. And secondly, working with the county HRA, 20% of the homes would actually have been specifically set aside for purchase by people who live in the county but also work in the county. So that would have made it very difficult for someone from, say, the Twin Cities to buy one of those designated homes and use it as a vacation home, because they would have had to show that they're a permanent resident of the county and also work in the county. Those are restrictions that do not apply to any of the neighboring homes, to my knowledge. And so this property was proposed to be developed in a manner that was more restrictive in terms of being available for local persons to rent long-term as well as purchase. So that issue was addressed in the application. Another issue that came up was the density. That issue was addressed by a potential condition that was set out by the administrative staff, which was to remove the accessory dwelling units from the approval. To my knowledge, the applicant said that they would accept that condition. The third item that came up was 3rd Street West and concerns of traffic. One, by removing the ADUs, the density's lowered and that overall concern significantly altered in terms of the amount of density. The second thing is the applicant's engineer, when asked to look at a traffic study, had said basically the impacts are so nominal that it would not pay to do any such study. But the applicant did propose a widening of 3rd in an effort to address the city's concern. Those concerns, I believe, were all addressed by the applicant. Tonight, or today, when I saw the last couple of days, when I saw the proposed findings for tonight, a new item that I had not heard nor seen mentioned before is proposed in those findings. And that item of concern is that the developer had proposed to run utilities up the center of the property. And the finding says that the concern is that this extension of public water and sewer would be inaccessible to undeveloped properties surrounding the development property. So I wanted to specifically address this concern. One is, I do not recall, nor did John Petters ever recall, having this concern raised by the council during any of the meetings or by staff. Secondly, the utilities proposed to be extended to the property were going to be private utilities entirely paid for by the developer. So that would not be a cost borne by the neighbors. Third thing is that the reason that those utilities were proposed to go through the center of the property, and likely the very reason that this property has not developed since 1917 when it was originally platted, is that it is economically and geologically infeasible to run the utilities up 6th or 7th. 6th has a significant amount of bedrock, which would make it infeasible financially and potentially physically to run the utilities all the way up 6th. And 7th has serious elevation concerns with regard to the feasibility of extending utilities. The other thing is that we never heard that the neighbors wanted sewer and water available to what is, for many of them, their backyards. This was not something that was expressed. In fact, what was expressed was by many neighbors expressing a concern that they did not want to be assessed for any part of this project. And any kind of extension of utilities up 6th or 7th would have been an extension, would have had to have been an extension by the city, and that cost would have had to have been borne 50-50 by both the development property as well as the adjacent neighbors. There was no such discussion because none of the neighbors had expressed an interest in spending that kind of money to provide sewer or water service to their backyards. As to the undeveloped property north of the proposed project, if one looks at the elevations, that property sits roughly 20 feet higher just across the road. There's another reason that that property hasn't been developed, and there was never an expressed desire by the city or that property owner to have utilities extended to that property. And that property may actually, if it can be served, might be better served from development to the north. And I just want to note that this is not a case of a proposed development on the edge of town where a developer would install private utilities, thereby stopping future development outside of the city. This is property that has remained undeveloped for over 100 years, that has been developed around it with utilities. Each block around this property, it is basically encircled by utilities that were not financially feasible to run up 6th and 7th. And so I wanted to mention that although that's in the findings tonight, it was never discussed nor part of the record. And further, there was never a request by the developer to provide any plans for neighbors who would want to potentially hook up. And that is something that potentially could have been possible had that need or desire been expressed, but it was not. And I raise this because this property shouldn't go undeveloped, especially when there's a housing need, and the city seems to want to try to meet that need. And to develop this property, it is going to require an extension of utilities. And even if it's not developed as a PUD, that would have been able to address some of these geography and geological issues and preserve some property. Even if it's not developed in that manner, it's going to be developed in a manner that would be permitted under your code. But that is going to require the extension of city municipal utilities. And so I urge you to look at that finding and ask yourself whether that was something that you ever actually expressed or was ever actually expressed at any of these meetings before you go ahead and adopt those findings. And that is all I have for tonight. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for open forum?
Good evening, Council. Madam Mayor, Linda Jurek, Executive Director of the Cook County Chamber of Commerce. I want to set the tone by saying that before I speak in public in support or not support of a project, we poll the board of the chamber, and they unanimously voted for me to be here this evening. So with that, we have long identified housing as a dire need for development in Cook County. In order to attract and retain workers, housing is paramount. I also think aging in place is a consideration, as there is a diminished ability for current senior single-family homeowners to transition from their home ownership to scenarios which require less maintenance. Of course, with the establishment of an HRA, we have made tremendous progress. We've accomplished much of this with financial, government, and community partnerships. That's not news to anybody in this room. We've done a lot of good work. I listened to the record of the August 14th City Council meeting. I was out of town at the time. What I learned in watching the video is that there is concern about long-term street and utility improvement plans and housing density. I also understand that the applicant worked with a civil engineer to widen the street for the entire block and agreed to pay for the improvements. Does the city of Grand Marais have a long-term infrastructure improvement plan? Are we able to simultaneously work on city improvement plans while supporting housing development and working with developers that come with cash in hand? This feels like a section of blocks in the city of Grand Marais that has remained relatively untouched when it comes to infrastructure improvements. Also of concern for our business community is that we should be open to working with outside developers. In most cases, communities would welcome the outside investment from developers, especially ones that have secured dollars and made commitments to improve city infrastructure. The Planning Commission of the City of Grand Marais made a positive recommendation for approving this project. If there were concerns at the council level, would it not be appropriate to discuss with the commission to gain their perspective, and perhaps that already occurred? I'm also curious about the concerns for forest density within the city. This property does not have signs posted for community members to enjoy the forest. It is also zoned permanent resident, which would not allow for commercial or mixed use or vacation rentals. That is not the intent, and the developer has assured that 60% of the land would remain forested. I hope that the City Council will choose to further consider this project and other projects by private developers as an opportunity for thoughtful growth and development for the positive forward movement in the City of Grand Marais. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for open forum? All right. And with that, we'll move to the consent agenda.
Yes, I wanted to pull an item from the consent agenda.
Certainly, we'd like to make a motion for
Yeah,
that.
I would make a motion to pull a Fight for Something parking license and move that, just as a suggestion, to after the liquor store marketing update.
Okay.
I would also like to pull the SWCD cost-sharing agreement for conversation.
Okay.
And also remind you that we can get the liquor store city hall update before we do consent agenda.
Yeah, we'd move them both after the
He's
liquor.
talking about Hagen Miller.
Oh! Oh, thank you. Yes. Sorry, John. We'll get back to you in 2 seconds. In fact, we will do that. I'm going to put a pause on this, and we're going to return to John. Yes,
Sorry.
my mistake.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is John Hagenmiller with McGough Construction. I'm the site superintendent for the City Hall and Municipal Liquor Store project. I'm here to give you my bi-weekly update, I guess. At this time, you can see we're setting structural steel. We'll be continuing that into next week. We're continuing to install sub-drainage system, the sub-drainage system in the parking lot area. And on September 9th, we will begin the framing of the exterior walls and continuing to prep for the parking lot, underground electric and low voltage, and then start working on the exterior concrete, sidewalks, replacing some curb and gutter and aprons into the site. And that'll probably end up towards the end of the month. So again, anyone's welcome to come down and stop by and say hi, and if you'd like, we can somewhat do a tour now. We have a hard slab to walk on, and you won't break an ankle on the rocks. So again, thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great.
Okay.
All right, now we will return to the consent agenda, for which there are two motions to remove, or there is a motion to remove two items, the SWCD cost share agreement to discuss and look at, along with the Fight for Something LLC parking license. Would anyone like to make a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion.
All right. Any further changes, edits, questions? All right, so all in favor of approving the consent agenda with removal of SWCD cost share agreements and Fight for Something LLC parking license?
We have to do it in a roll call.
In a roll call.
Yeah.
Craig?
I think you're muted, Craig.
Sorry. Aye.
Okay. Ben?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Aye. Michael?
Aye.
All right, with that, we will, which we did not put into that when I completed, but we will move that for after the liquor store marketing update.
Yeah, great.
All right, very good. All right, next up on the agenda is the Bjorkberg PUD and preliminary plat. Those are way too many Ps to say without.
I still like the PUD-CUP.
All right, I'm just going to get to that page. All right. Resolution 2024-37. Would anyone like to make a motion? All right, I will make a motion for the resolution of the City Council of the City of Grand Marais, Minnesota, denying planned unit development conditional use permit for proposed Bjorkberg Grand Marais LLC Common Interest Community Plat. Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
All right, any further comments or discussion? Okay, we will take a roll call on that. Craig?
Aye.
Ben?
No.
Bill?
Aye.
Aye. Michael?
Nay.
Okay. And now we will move on to City Council Resolution 2024-38, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Grand Marais, Minnesota, denying the Bjorkberg Grand Marais LLC Common Interest Community Preliminary Plat. Would anyone like to make a motion on that? Okay. All right, I will make a motion on that. Would anyone like to second that?
So Tracy,
Yeah.
could you repeat
Could you please repeat your motion, please?
All right. A motion for
Sorry.
this resolution of 2024-38. That's the second resolution under this Bjorkburg PUD preliminary plat, and this is for the preliminary plat. So that's the second one on the list. Is it, you're okay with that now, Craig? Do you see where I'm,
Yeah.
okay.
And your motion would,
And a second on that?
I'll second.
All right. Roll call vote. Craig?
Yes.
Ben?
No.
Bill?
Yes.
Yes. Michael?
Nay.
Okay. All right, and with that, we move on to the liquor store marketing update. Chris, you're close to a microphone.
I am pretty close to a microphone.
Yes.
You hear me? Oh, yeah.
Yep. We thought it would be nice to get a little update. Summer's almost over with, and we're already looking into our future of the liquor store, where it's going to be and what's going on. We thought it'd be great to have a little update from you and kind of see how all that's going, along with the marketing piece, which is you have quite a bit of material.
Yeah, we've picked out a logo. We have a couple options for you to look at as far as people to help us do some marketing. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at them or not yet.
You can just kind of describe generally, it wasn't here, we didn't ask you here for the purpose of like approving anything. We just wanted to know, update where you're at and see how things are going. So,
Things are going great.
I mean, and about the marketing and how we're online and just general update. It wasn't that we wanted to say yay or nay to anything.
I mean, we have rack cards made. We've done a lot of things we'll be hiring someone to build us a website and to do some marketing via that website and other avenues. Yeah, I pretty self-explanatory, I guess. Any questions for me about what we're trying to accomplish or what we're doing?
Let's look at a couple of the ideas that are in one of the proposals quick. So first of all, both of these proposals included redesigning the website, doing some social media marketing. That's what we want to focus on. We don't think that there are other marketing tools that make sense for us right now in terms of big-time print or anything else. One of them from Breakwall Digital we received first, and the price is a little bit high on the social media marketing. We did get a discount on the website. And then the second one from Sweetwater Design Company, the website price is a little bit higher, but we're very familiar with her work and have examples of local ones that we really like quite a bit. And then the price on the social media work is a little bit cheaper, so we think that's the one we probably end up going with. And so if you look at, it's page 65 on my PDF, but if that's bear with me if that's not true for everybody else. It includes the new website and social media estimate, and you can see there's 12 items that she's listing.
Okay.
And so the first couple of those are just helping go through the design process for the website. There's some getting photographer, videographer for the website and for social media, and then figuring out how to get Instagram feed integrated, creating a contact form, optimizing the website pages, doing some Google Analytics for us, training sessions so that we can make our own updates, and then launching it with all links and plugins. One of the things that we considered but didn't include right now is using our website to sell products. So that's one of the things that she has the capability of adding in the future if we want, but right now, we don't think we're going to go that direction. And then page 66 on mine, the annual website and social media fees, basically, we're asking for assistance from her to help us create social media contact and then just get it out there. So, your content, sorry. That's our basic marketing strategy, is to rely on our website and to use social media marketing and just target some, probably Thunder Bay and some local areas right now,
Okay.
and then just use that to kind of grow with as we keep going.
Okay.
Just for my understanding, so would it be the, excuse me, the 5,000 plus
Yes.
the 1,000?
So the 5,000 is just the
Okay.
website, that's a
Yeah.
one-time. The 1980 is an annual cost, and really both of the proposals, the annual cost is based on some assumptions of how much ads we're buying on social media, or how many people are looking at them. This isn't a huge amount right now, and I think, that could potentially change depending upon our experience with it, but we're just trying to get started in this, and we haven't really done this before, and we're excited to get going.
Great.
Okay. So it's been an okay summer, all things considered?
It's been a summer. It's been all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It's kind of tough to move into somewhere and then just leave immediately, just when you're kind of figuring out how the place works, but,
Right.
yeah, and it's been a little hot. In a building with one door and no windows, but other than that, pretty good. Adding 2 15-minute parking spots really helped. Short-term parking, getting people in and out of there quicker.
They pay
Yeah.
attention to that.
They do.
That's impressive.
The
Yeah,
one sign that people do see, yeah.
So I was curious about how the THC drinks have been going there, and
Very well.
Any thoughts about that going forward? Like, how's that looking?
I mean, we'll definitely have a pretty good section in the liquor store dedicated to THC CBD beverages, for sure. We'll add some edibles too, probably.
Yeah.
Not just drinks, but some other things. Yeah, the age demographics are pretty crazy with that stuff. There are people all over the board. You see just as many 80-year-olds as 21-year-olds, which I think is kind of fascinating.
Yeah. All right.
I also feel like people are a little more comfortable buying those things from a liquor store than from a grocery store or a gas station, just in talking to customers and, like the older clientele.
Yep.
It's a 21 and older store, so I think it's a little more appealing to go in there and get those things than elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, stuff like that's fascinating. Yeah.
Interesting.
And do you sell multi-packs? Sorry, I'm just curious.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay.
At
I just
first-
hadn't seen them. I saw like the single.
Yeah, at first, everything was, the most you could get it in was like a 4-pack. I think you
Okay.
couldn't buy more than maybe 40 milligrams
Okay.
at once. And now there's some 6-packs and 8-packs.
Okay.
Yep. And I
Good.
think there's going to be more of those within the next few weeks, too.
Yeah.
And that market, too, there's already brands that have disappeared,
Sure.
like that were there and they're already gone. And there's ones that have kind of taken over. It's funny how quickly. And I think as of now, they're all pretty much Minnesota products, too, still.
Yay.
They have to be, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and did you end up actually having to condense your inventory choices as much as you thought originally? I mean, were you able to keep a lot
No,
of?
more so. I mean, I had probably one of the 5 pages long for Burnix. It's now 3 pages. Budweiser was 3.5 pages. It's now about a page and a half.
Okay.
It's been like that with everything. Just to keep. Beer has probably been harder than spirits, just because you can't have 1 case of beer sitting there. 12 bottles of booze is a lot to sell. 12 cans of beer is not that much to sell,
Yeah.
So we've had to, and we still can't get enough stuff to make it through a week. I mean, unless I bought just like half of what I do now in 6-packs and smaller format packages.
So there's probably a lot of anxious, like, when can we get into the space we really need to stock what we really?
I mean, I think customers are wanting that again. There's a lot of stuff that's been taken away that they just can't get right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So you and the staff feel pretty good about what you've got on tap for marketing in general and things you want to take?
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're still the only liquor store in Grand Marais. You know, we need to let people know where we are. We need to let people know what we have, what our hours are, that we're excited about this project. But, you know,
Well, you may be the only one in town, but you're not the only one in the county. So,
right.
Yeah. All right, anything else?
No?
Our next step with the logo work is to design and hire a sign builder for the building, so we're actually going to start that process right now.
Our beer can?
For the
Our
beer can?
revolving
wrapped beer
for the
can that
stone
we
beer
want?
can. That's right.
Yeah.
It's going to be a martini glass now. We switched from beer can to martini glass.
Can you get as much on a martini glass as you can with a
Get
full
whole
beer
moose,
can?
Apparently, but.
You can get a whole moose in one.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, we're looking for something really showy.
Let's hope we get that.
Like a fishtail or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, we tried to get that to come with in the lease, but it didn't bite, so.
Oh,
Bam. Dun, dun.
it's really bad. All right, with that, thank you,
Hey,
Chris.
thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
All
You
right.
need a
Can we,
motion?
can we come back, though? No, we don't, we're
No.
good. Thanks, Chris. Can we go back to the resolutions that you just passed?
Oh,
And
I'm sorry.
I've been asked if we can just make some clarifications about what actually happened here.
Okay.
So both resolutions
Oh,
are written in a way that if they are approved, they deny the Bjorkberg request. And so the motions that were made, seconded, and then voted to approve 3-2 means that these resolutions were adopted and that the request is denied. Just want to make sure that's clear.
all right, then we're on to the Third Street feasibility study proposal.
Oh, I thought we were going to do that.
We got one intermediary now, we're going to do the,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, we
back
have
to it.
two.
we have
could do
two.
them both at this
Okay.
point. But let's do the parking license because we have a guest for that.
Okay, let's do that.
True, now we're going to get a correct name.
All right. Did I get-
Did Mitch join the meeting?
Yes.
Oh, that's the cost share. There we go.
Hello, can you hear me? Sorry, am I being asked?
Yes,
Yeah,
and please
gotcha.
just say your full name so we have that correct.
My name's Mitch Rian.
Riam, thank you.
Thanks. All right.
New
So,
owner of Stone Harbor.
lucky guy.
Hello, yeah, I own a company. I'm from down in the cities, and my wife and I are in the process of, taking over the building that's currently Stone Harbor, and our hope is to use it very similar to how it already is. The only real change would be that the second and third floor, which were like built for residential, we'd love to be able to use for like workforce housing for ourselves and maybe some of our staff, as well as short-term housing. So really, we're looking at it like not much will change except hopefully the second and third floor. And so the parking is a big part of that, and being able to do that. It's currently used by Jack for parking, but we just I'm a rule follower, so we wanted to get it in writing and make sure we're all good there.
Yeah, appreciate that.
So this license agreement is virtually similar to one that we have in place right now with East Bay Suites for the south half of the lot. This is a platted city lot that we own, fee title own. It's not a public right-of-way. And the reason that we own it is because there's a stormwater pipe that goes from the parking lot to the pond behind the co-op that goes through this lot. And so we don't really have a need for it other than to use for parking, which is probably how we would use it if it was just publicly owned. But we do have a need to occasionally get in there and do some maintenance to the pipes. So this deal that was approved for East Bay was used to help them meet our minimum parking requirements for their use. And it would be the same for what we agreed to with Jack, but never actually signed paperwork on, and what we're looking at approving tonight.
Okay.
Not
Yep.
paving it.
We're not going to make any improvements to it. This license agreement is
I think he's
similar to other right-of-way license agreements where we're saying the user is responsible for whatever happens to it, and that we can have it back whenever we want it. We don't have any intentions to do anything with it, and it seems to be suitable right now for parking use. If he wanted to make some changes to it, then he'd just have to ask our permission, and
Yeah.
we could talk about it.
For myself, the reason why I wanted to pull that from the consent agenda was just trying to understand. So knowing that this is going to be coming before us at planning and zoning, I was curious to understand. So they'll have parking spaces because we have an agreement with them. And is that, I mean, it seems like I guess we already have done that. That is sufficient. To me, I was wondering if that was sufficient for them to make.
Would that meet our parking requirement? Is that your question?
Yeah.
There's no reason we wouldn't allow it to.
Okay.
But I think we're not prejudging any of his request that's in front of planning commission. So that's
Right.
what Michael's
I'm
talking
trying to
about is,
understand the-
there's an application in front of the planning commission next week for the use that Mitch talked about for the upper two floors. And parking will be one of the issues that's addressed in that conversation, I would guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if for some reason that you didn't approve this, that would make that a very different conversation next week, that's for sure.
And I was wondering, even if, I guess the question I had in my mind was like, even if we do approve this, we're making essentially a permanent grant, like we're granting him the ability to use that space for housing. Is an agreement of this sort sufficient to meet that standard?
Yes and no. Yes, it's sufficient in the sense that this is the legal document that we could use to grant the permission for parking.
Mhm.
This is not permanent.
Right.
And so what you're granting, if you decide to move forward with his conditional use permit request, isn't permanent either if it's based on conditions that he can't meet. And so I think there's a way to get through that
Okay.
conversation.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
That's good to understand. I wasn't aware that other piece was part of your consideration, so that makes good sense.
So we don't charge a market rate for this, and that's one of the questions that the city attorney raised with me is should we do that? Is there a market rate that we could attach to this? Because this is a commercial rental of space. You could look at it that way. And because we hadn't done that with either of the previous users, I wasn't proposing it, but since we're talking about it, I'll just make sure you know what Chris brought up.
And is East Bay?
They're not paying, they paid $1.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Got a question. I have a question, just one question. Does this land offer Mitch adequate spaces that he requires, that he needs? Or is that going to be talked about in planning and zoning?
Yeah, I think we'll address that more clearly with the Planning and Zoning Commission. I don't think that it necessarily does. He still has to provide additional space on his property, but we can sort that out when we look at his request specifically.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to add the city attorney's comment about rent to our next meeting. This is not the time or place, but I do think that does, for consistency, I think that's a good point. I'd like to see it at our next meeting.
Okay.
Gotcha. I would make a motion to approve, if there's, no further discussion or anything. I'd make a motion to approve that. Fight for Something LLC parking license.
I'll second.
That would still, now I'm going back to your
Okay, sorry.
comment again. If we bring this up for discussion next time, which of these uses does it really apply against this license? Or when you bring up the need for permanence? But it seems to me that would apply to this license if there's any conversation about rental fee, right?
It would apply to this license.
License,
Not the
right.
conditional use permit. Yeah, and if you're approving this license tonight, it doesn't include a rental fee, and so there won't
Right.
be one. We have a right to change the terms with 30 days' notice. I'm sure we can work something out.
Either that or table it for next time if that's still workable, rather than go back and be done.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I think it'd probably work better for the planning commission's conversation if they were assured. But if you're not assured that we can come to a deal, then that's just good to know. And if we need to wait on this and have more conversation, let's provide that guidance to planning commission that this is not a done deal. And don't approve it tonight.
So that's the, because you're going to be meeting next week.
Next week, yeah.
And they can have a similar condition on their permit. It wouldn't have to slow down that conversation at all. They could say one of the conditions is that he acquires sufficient parking spaces, and this is the plan, and we're still working on it. So it wouldn't have to slow him down at all.
Got it. Is that,
Okay. I just think that through for a minute, because that's actually going to end up two conversations potentially anyways.
Yeah.
All right, that's okay then.
as well, it'll go to us, and it'll come back to us.
Well, and then it's two properties of potential conversation.
If we're talking about rent, we're going to talk to both of them.
Right, so
Yeah,
that's
for
okay
sure.
then.
Yep,
So then
yep.
I'm fine. I'm tracking. All right, very good. And then, S.
Well, we didn't take any action on this yet.
So, I would like a motion for approval.
There's been a motion and a
Motion for
second.
We have set the vote.
Second?
There's been one.
All
Who
right.
was it, Kim?
And that was the end
It
of
was
our
Ben.
conversation.
Yeah.
All right, so, all in favor of license agreement for use, license agreement between the city and Fight for Something Properties LLC. Craig?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Yes? Mike?
Aye.
All righty.
All right. We'll see you in a week, Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch.
Yep.
Thank you. Is he still there?
Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it.
Yes. All right, so now we'll move on to Soil and Water Conservation's cost share agreement around the green roof for City Hall.
I was confused to see it on the consent agenda because I don't remember us having a detailed enough conversation enough to say we were doing a green roof.
Did you have a chance to look through this, or do you want a
Well, I
quick
wanted just,
primer
I just
on?
wanted just to understand that,
Right.
Yeah.
that we
your-
haven't been
Your
there.
issue's not the contract language. Your issue's the policy question.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Policy, or actually just how this is going to work, or would work,
Do
you
you want one
mean?
at all, I
Or
think is the question?
Yeah, well, that is my question is, do we know what it's gonna cost? Have we had that conversation? and have
Yeah,
we-
so
have
let
we-
me try to clarify the financial part, and I'll go back to where the last we talked about this. So the last place this existed at a council conversation was the overall project budget. And we decided when we bid the project out that this would be an ad alternate. We wouldn't necessarily do it, because at that point, we didn't know what it would cost, and we didn't know how we would pay for it. Now we know both of those things. So what this agreement is doing is saying SWCD, our best local partners ever, have $150,000 of grant money that we can use to pay for a green roof. And guess how much it's going to cost? $150,000. We're going to make sure it does. As a matter of fact, we told McGough when you're talking to the contractor on this, we're right-sizing it. We have $150,000 for
That's what we're
this,
spending.
and that's what we're going to use to build it.
Okay.
So it's budget neutral to the project, and it's our one and only way that we can do anything with stormwater on site.
So the confusion for me was the $250,000 match, City
Yeah.
of Grand Marais.
I tried to clarify that in the memo, but maybe I didn't have enough detail. The match that we're using, the 250 is just a number picked out of thin air. We're using 8.5 million.
Got it, it's already,
a
so it's
big
not
project.
additional, it's not
Yeah.
additional.
So it's not additional money. We're not coming up with any funds.
Great.
They're paying for it. And although some of my staff says, really? We have to do a green roof? And I get it. We'll still have to figure out how to deal with the seagulls and such. But if we want to do anything on site stormwater-wise, this is
That's
our
the way to do
chance,
it.
and somebody's going to help us do it, so
Okay.
I hope you do.
Does the co-op still have theirs?
They do.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Thought I
Well,
saw.
I would put a motion to approve the SWCD cost-sharing agreement.
I'll second that.
All right, any further comments, discussions? All right, roll call vote. Craig?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Yes? Michael?
Aye.
All right, and with that, that passes. Now, we are on to Third Street,
Yay.
feasibility study proposal.
My occasional cynical side says, we could probably get this done a lot cheaper without involving as many parties. But that wouldn't be the right way to do it. And in particular, because I don't think we know how we want to do this project. We haven't decided whether it's financially in our interest to do this project, and you haven't decided whether or not you're planning on special assessing any of the adjacent property owners for this project. And to allow all those questions to just continue to exist, what we need to do is hire our engineers to do a feasibility study. So here is their proposal, a not-to-exceed cost of $19,275. What do we get for that? We get a preliminary design, which is not a engineered design, but it does tell us this is what it'll look like, this is how big it is, and this is what we think it'll cost. We also get some, what they're calling reconnaissance and consultation. They're not going to do a site survey, but they will just establish the existing conditions on site and with talking with us and seeing what's going on. Then they will look for funding opportunities for us, although I'm not anticipating any that we don't already know about for this. And then they'll create a design memorandum, and they'll do some project management during the process, where what I'm hoping to have happen is some communication with the neighbors and some communication with the council, just to make sure that we all know what's going on. And for those people that haven't been following this for a month with us, this is 3rd Street between 6th Avenue and 8th Avenue.
I think this is our next step. Is there a motion needed?
Yes,
Okay.
if you want to.
I did have a question. It's just a clarification from the last meeting, when Craig was talking about this. I wasn't sure. Craig, is this the space you meant, or did you mean even farther on Third Street? Did you mean just between 6th and 8th, or from all the way to 5th, or farther on? I just want to make sure.
Well, what are we, is this a feasibility study for all of Third Street from 6th to 8th, or is this from
Yes.
7th to 8th?
6th
To
to 8th.
8th.
6th to 8th, connecting it on the east side of 6th Street, where it's already wide,
Right,
I would assume, correct?
yeah.
Correct?
3rd Street between
Okay.
5th and 6th is a 40-foot wide pavement.
Right.
It doesn't have a complete curb and gutter setup, but it's a wide street. And then 8th Avenue, there's a curb cut for a 40-foot wide pavement.
There's a curb cut on it, yes.
We're not talking about building a 40-foot wide pavement here. I'd be really surprised if that's where this ends up, but that's what the spaces on either side are right now.
And all I'm asking, Craig, is from our last meeting, I didn't catch how far you were thinking along along Third Street. Was it just was it as we have it here, 6th through 8th? Is that what you were?
Well, there was a proposal to widen it 5 feet.
Oh,
I
no, no,
believe
no,
it
no, no.
was.
I'm sorry. I meant, are we starting at 5th Street across? Or is, from 6th to 8th, is that 6th, 7th, 8th?
Yeah, that's
Please
the-
help me here, I'm
Yeah.
not saying this very
That's the
well.
narrow
Yeah.
part.
That's for sure the only stuff we were talking about.
Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to confirm what he
Right.
said from the other night,
Six-
because I never quite got that.
Going from 6th west to 8th is what I'm assuming is what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was
Yeah.
what you had
Yeah.
had from last week. Okay,
Okay.
great.
Well, my question at this point in time, with this topic that we're talking about, if we're going to spend $20,000, what are we spending this money on? To find out what it's going to cost to actually do the project? Or whether we're going to get money to help pay for that project? Or are we not going to get money to pay for the project?
I wouldn't assume we're going to
What-
get any assistance to pay for the project. What we're getting is a conversation with the neighbors and with the council about what the design should be, and then a preliminary design and a preliminary cost estimate, and a memorandum that explains all of that. That's what we're getting.
And it leads us down a path to where we're either going to pay out of pocket to do this, or get money to do this, or assess people to do this. Those are about your only 3 options.
Yeah, and, or
That I can
probably
see.
in
A
combination.
combination
Yeah.
of all.
Yeah. But for this 19,000, we're out of pocket.
To at least.
Yeah, I
have-
understand that. I'm just trying to see, we're going to spend what are we going to get for our $19,000, and what's at the, is there any light at the end of the tunnel, or is it a closed door? That's kind of what I'm looking at. How are we approaching this?
Yeah, and I think if what you
At
mean
this
by
point,
light
yeah.
at the end of the tunnel is someone going to help us pay for the construction of it, I wouldn't expect it.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, other than I feel strongly like it is a substandard width road and we need to look at it. And if this is the way that we do it, and I'm not one to say, let's throw $20,000 at it and see, but in this case, this is, we can't afford to not do something with Third. I feel very
agreed.
strongly about that.
I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about that in our last couple of meetings.
I think we all can agree with that, but I can also agree with how long we talked about the gravel road behind the recycling center going down to the 7th Avenue. That's been, what, 4, 8, 12 years now we've been talking about that, and it's still a gravel road. I mean, let's bring a list then of all the roads that we need to study and we want to maybe lean towards putting some money into, instead of, we just picked one out of the thin sky now because of a proposed building project. And so now all of a sudden 3rd Street is the most important street in Grand Marais. I'm not against doing something in 3rd Street because it is narrow, I get it. But we have other issues around town too, so I would like to talk about all of those other streets and try to put them in priority of what we want to do, what we're going to do. I don't know if anybody else thinks that way or not, but that's how I'm thinking right now.
I
If
absolutely.
we're going to spend $20,000. Go ahead.
I agree with everything you just said. We absolutely should be looking at our infrastructure. We should be looking at roads that are substandard. We should be looking at highest and best use, who's going to be, would most benefit from those improvements, right? And I think there was some creative solutions on how we pay for those things, but if we want infill and we want housing, we have to support it one way or the other. Like, we just, we can't do nothing on these projects.
Okay.
Can I divide this then and say that we have made a decision on Third Street to certainly pursue that? We could add on top of that, reviewing, and yes, we've had a lot of conversation, including the fact is who even owns that street has been also a top, I mean, it's not just its condition, but a broader conversation and place that on an agenda item for the future and proceed with this.
I actually think going through this process, talking about this two-block section, will help you decide how you want to have a conversation about the next piece too. Because we're saying substandard, but we don't know what that means yet. And gravel
Good point.
doesn't mean substandard to me
No,
necessarily.
I agree with that.
So let's just wait and see how this goes, and then we can start applying the standard and seeing what needs to get fixed.
So doing this as our test case and letting it be instructive.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yes, we've become aware that some things aren't that prescriptive,
Yeah.
so that makes sense. Is that, okay.
Okay.
Well, the other question I've got, I mean, like, is there any, are they gonna be looking at any sort of utility stuff in here, Mike, or like, what, like,
Yeah,
is
it's
Yes.
in there.
Yes,
how to
I think it was
include
on
in that
the-
I mean, I think that's important as well.
The way their memo is written, they're definitely including utilities in the conversation. I don't know if we can
Right,
understand what that means yet, because there are some utilities serving the house that are already in that section of right-of-way. I don't know that 20,000 pays for a full-on study for extending water and sewer through two blocks where it doesn't exist in Solid Rock. So we can have a conversation about utilities there, but I wouldn't expect this to create a plan that includes them.
Because it's not a full plan.
It's just a
It's a
preliminary design.
study.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it's not for full make-out. All right, build out. With that said, I'd like a motion to accept the proposal for LHB for preliminary design for the Third Street reconstruction.
I would make that motion.
All right, a second to that?
I'll second.
All right, any further comments or discussion? All right, roll call. Craig?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Yes, Michael?
Aye.
All righty. Thank you. We'll look forward to that. Now, the 2025 budget. Mike?
Our actual first draft, you can see. But what the heck does that number even mean? The levy that this spreadsheet is proposing is the higher of the two enclosed boxes on the lower right-hand side, $1.202 million. That is just over 10% or 15% more than last year's budget, or last year's levy. So it's still quite a bit higher than I think we'd like to see. Part of our budget process is we do a 3-year look ahead. And so last year, we had a projection about what was going to be this year's budget. And we're off of it by $80-some thousand. And that's not based on actual happenings. That's just based on our budget and what we've approved so far. And so there's some explanations for some of that we know, but I think there's more work we want to do still. The first pin in the ground that we made was approving the library budget, and that was significantly higher than 3%, which is the estimate we used last year to imagine what this year's budget was going to look like. It was significantly higher. There are also some other expenses in here that are a little bit higher than we projected, so I think the 3% didn't pan out in terms of our expectation last year. It's probably closer to 4.5% in terms of expense growth. What's not included in here is any sort of new staff or new programs or anything else. So we're just talking about growth in expenses. So let's look a bit at what this levy is supporting. The top row is just a catch-all. We call it administration, but it includes everything that we can't put in some other department. So it's really not accurate to think of that as just the administration. Otherwise, we're doing great with a negative $36,000 levy, but we can't take credit for that. That includes all the state funding that we get and other revenues that don't belong in somebody else's department. You can see that planning and zoning is not up significantly from last year because that's just a function of raises, and we know that next year, at least the union contract raises in at 3%. The buildings, we've got an idea, but I don't know how to tell you this. We have no real idea of what our building costs are going to be in 2025 because this is mostly City Hall. And so, hard to predict. I'd like to think it's going to end up being a little bit less than previous years because we're going to have zero maintenance and very efficient building. But, so this could be a very conservative estimate right now, and that could come down. Public safety, we've got a number in here that is a $140,000 contract for law enforcement that we're right in the middle of having a conversation about. So I'd like to have some level of faith in that number, but I really don't right now. Streets is up, but that's just as the function of salaries and typical expenses. Rec Park, same thing. The Rec Park revenue number at $1,590,000 will once again be a record number for us. Every year is a record number at the Rec Park. This year's number isn't a lot higher than last year. It's pretty flat, and so that happens every once in a while. We don't ever go down in revenues over there, which is a great business model, but it's usually every year we get to look at this revenue number and say, we're being conservative, we can add a little more to this if we need to. I still think that's true now, but not as much as in previous years. We've got a YMCA contract. Again, I think that is in the middle of a lot of different conversations, but it's still there. The golf is, I just want to point this out, that's $260,000 of budgeted expenses. That doesn't include a fully funded capital improvement plan to take care of all the infrastructure at the golf course. That is a get by and operate it at a level that we're still proud of operating it, but that isn't enough. And the revenues are, I think we kind of know what we're going to get from revenues at that place. There's $105,000 in public subsidy built into this budget for the golf course. The other activities in our parks departments are all performing pretty well. The city parks is up a little bit, but not a lot. The boat harbor is still making money. So those are things that we know. How are we going to get this number to move? We're going to spend a little time talking to each department. And so particularly when Dave comes to talk about the park, we'll dig in a lot more detail about what is built into this expense budget and what we think about revenues, what's going on with revenues now, what we think we're going to do with rates, what can we really count on. We're going to look at our building budget a little closer and see, okay, is it too big for what we've got going on next year? Let's try and do some estimates for what it's really going to take to operate this place. And we're going to look at some of our additional revenue sources. One that's been on the list for a long time is the amount that our electric utility pays in support of the general fund. Right now, we collect that in the form of a franchise fee. A lot of cities use what they call payment in lieu of taxes with a utility. And what we know is that the percentage that ours is paying is lower than what would be a typical or standard, or more importantly, what a bond rating agency would look at as an electric utility and say is too high. So we're going to talk about that number having to go up a little bit. We're also going to look at what the utilities departments pay in rent. And, you know, it's a little complicated this year because they're also paying a big capital chunk for the new building that they're going to be in. but they need to pay a part of the operating expense as well, which is what that $137,000 number includes quite a bit of. And then finally, we're just going to go fine tooth comb all of our departments' asks and make sure that the numbers make sense to us. We've done that at a kind of a high level now. You're going to get a chance to have each of them in front of you in the next couple of weeks and to sit down and you get to ask them some questions. So let's start right now and see if you have any for me.
Yeah, I had one, just curious about the YMCA amount. I'm forgetting how that is figured out, because it obviously doesn't stay the same year to year.
No.
And there was the 2020, oh, that must have, they were close, but okay.
They didn't invoice us in 2020.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Thanks. Thanks for that. It's a contract we have with the county, a
Right.
contract that we've talked about not being relevant to anyone's current situation right now in terms of the words in it. But the spirit of it remains the same, which is we agreed that we would help pay for some of this outfit, and this is the amount that we agreed to. And there is an escalator clause in our contract that is one of the reasons why it goes up.
Okay.
Right now, it's the county that's telling us what this number is. They send us an invoice and we're paying it. And the invoice they have complies with our contract that we have with them.
Okay.
Do we, this is going to come up in my council reports, but since we're looking at directly in the budget, do we also contribute as a line item to the community center and all of its
No.
outings at all?
No,
Okay.
we do not.
I didn't know if that was the way we funneled dollars through some of the other, okay. And the library's budget at this point is still mostly affected, obviously, by potential insurance costs. We didn't see other pieces, so
Right.
I just want to
Yeah.
go over that one more time. There's nothing changing there.
No, not only is there nothing changing there, but we thought we were being conservative with that number, but it actually turns out it's accurate. We need all of that money to provide benefits, so.
You do have a confirmation on the insurance costs?
No,
Oh.
it could still get worse, but we know that we have employees that are going to use the amount that we have budgeted.
Okay.
So
Oh.
when we have positions that we offer benefits to, there's still a significant price difference for us, depending upon whether they take full coverage, whether they take coverage for just one person, or whether they don't take coverage because they're covered somewhere else.
Right.
And that's something we don't have any control over, but
Sure.
we have to be prepared for it.
Okay. Well, at this high level, I don't have anything else.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
No,
All
not
right.
at this time.
We'll
Well,
look,
we're aiming for your next meeting, you passing a resolution approving a preliminary levy. And so before your next meeting, we'll have Dave in here. We'll have Ben in here to talk about the fire department. We'll have Lenny in here to talk about the streets department and the buildings. And Kim and I will talk about the other departments, the administrative and finance and other things that are included in here. So you'll get a chance to look at the line item budget documents, ask questions about it, have a little FaceTime with your department heads. And then when you do approve the preliminary levy, it's not the levy, it's the levy that you can't exceed. And so it still might be a number that you think is too high, but know that we have 3 more months to keep working on it.
and then we're going to refer back to the calendar you included in the July 31st or
Yep.
July 31st.
That's right.
Yep, as our scheduled calendar on that. All right. Anything else on budget? All right, thank you. You may or may not remember, moving on to the Rural Minnesota Community Safety Project. This was actually back in March. We brought this up at a city council meeting and for general awareness. This project, I believe it was Cloquet, I believe, was the other community involved. Oh, yeah, it says that there. And then it does include Grand Portage, and then here in the city. So they conducted their survey, and now it is time to have a meeting to present the results. And at that time, I had mentioned some of this might be helpful as a reference document for future planning around topics that might apply. So we could use it in that way potentially, along with there's another survey going out as well, or work that was done too on a different project. But either way, they apply to maybe being helpful for planning and reference material. So tonight, I'm just simply alerting everyone to the fact that those results are there. They are offering a online meeting to review the results. It is Thursday, September 12th, from 12 to 1 o'clock. And Patrick, you have that on the city's website now, right? So people can, if they're interested, they can get a link and join in on that meeting and see the results of that survey. And that was done by Northspan, was contracted to do that work. So it just arrived on our plate. There was nothing we did actively for this to occur. So I wanted to make awareness of that. I had two other pieces that, and now, I am going to share my screen. There we go. And I want the entire screen. All right. Did I click too fast? There we are, biggest day. All right. I believe Mike forwarded this to everybody. So there is a inaugural State of the Range address that is going to be occurring Thursday, September 19th. And you can pick up the rest of the details there, and hopefully you did see that forwarding of that. It's an RSVP, and I would like to see at least one of us represent the city at this event. We can have more, of course. That would be welcomed and wonderful. Has anyone at this had a chance to look enough to know if there's an opportunity they could attend, or we don't have to settle anything?
I hadn't looked at my
Okay.
schedule yet.
Well, Ben, Bill, any thoughts on this yet, or you just want to take a look through still?
Yeah, I've got to take a look at my
Okay.
calendar.
Or Craig, of course. I would ask that September 6th is the date, and I don't know what day of the week that is without looking, but, which I can do handily. So that's a Friday.
Yeah.
We're not meeting on Wednesday the 4th, but it would be nice to know by Wednesday the 4th, do you want that to go to Patrick, Mike, or who do you want,
Yep,
Alyssa?
That'd be fine. Any of us, frankly, will work just fine.
Let's pick somebody, so it's not, does that Alyssa sound good? I don't care.
City Hall at Grand Marais.
All right, so just let no one confirm and make sure that we have representation there for that. The other piece, which has gotten already a lot of press, but I'm just doing the same as well, and for also our residents, there is the SBA low-interest rate disaster loan available, and this is for any physical property damage between June 16th through July 4th of this year due to severe storms and flooding. And have you had a chance to pop that? Probably not. I just mentioned that today. But once again, we'll put the more detailed information about that on our City Hall's website if anyone is interested or feels this would be applicable to them. And I think we've been through them all. That was it.
of those pieces that I wanted to share on screen. All right, I will come back to mine in a minute. Craig, did you have anything to report, meetings?
No,
All right, Ben?
Nothing.
Bill?
No, just exchange with Arrowhead Animal Rescue.
We owe them a meeting date. We're going to put that on a council meeting.
Yeah,
for
they
some
just
discussion.
wanted to know if I had passed the information along.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I assured them I did.
All right, so we have that tentative for September, right, in early?
Madam Mayor,
Pick a
just
date.
a correction on the date for the IRRR State of the Range address.
Oh.
That's going to be Thursday, September 19th.
I thought, did I not say that?
No, I think she was talking about the RSVP deadline, which is Friday the 6th.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was referencing. No, sorry about that.
Thanks for paying attention.
Got to double check.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, so Animal Arrowhead Rescue, anything else on that? How's the building, the movement of all the moving parts, literally?
They didn't mention anything else about that. I just wanted to follow up on
Okay.
the previous.
We do need to finish up that operating agreement. We've said that before. We need to, no, you're in process of taking, they have a proposed agreement, which it's my understanding you are working on any edits and changes,
Yes.
and then it
That's
will
the-
come to us.
That's where it's at.
And we've talked about this before, we'd like to have that completed and done before they're actually operational, which would just make sense. So, we're working on that. Let me, there we go. All right, and anything else? No.
I don't.
All right. Okay. All right. I had one meeting since our last meeting, and that was with the North Shore Management Board. One of the things they've been working on for some time, and they had a grant available to them to pay for this, was just revising the management plan that we've been working off of for some time. And that grant timeline was coming due, and there wasn't enough time to get the plan update completely done. There's been some staffing changes, just a little bit of, I won't say chaos, but things to be straightened out and all colliding in at the same time. So they're still looking at a potential extension on that grant so that this plan review update can be completed. In the meantime, the other thing that needed to be done was approving ARDC to be continuing to provide the support for the North Shore Management Board. So they do all the administrative work for that, and that was a bit of discussion, and that approval went through. So those were the main two items at the meeting. I will say, as a change of pace, that meeting was held here at our community center. That has not been done as long as I've been on the board, and that was kind of fun, and now they're going to start rotating. You always have an online option, but we were pretty much consistently trying to be in Midway at Tedagoosh or Silver Bay, and now they're going to just kind of roam around and have everyone host, up and down the shore a little bit, and, if it's not a good day to drive, you can still tap in. And then the county is represented by Deb White, so she was gracious enough to also, it was dinner time, host a little food for all of our guests too. And by the way, it wasn't like just us and then a bunch of people online. We had 3-4 other people drive the distance along with the ARDC group, so it was very nice. So that's my main piece to that. And now I'm going to circle back to one of the budget items. I've had several different communications with the now tennis/pickleball association. They've added that on, so that's good to see. And they have a few pieces they would like to purchase and improvements. And I know in the past they've come for us, things paving and whatnot. And I knew there's sort of a chain to all of this, so I included Dave Mills on this, and that was the confusion with where that goes through, and apparently that's part of the community center's budget. And they're still coming back to us. So would we normally just contribute to the community? If the city were to assist with this, we have in the past, what would be the chain we usually follow on that is where I was a little unclear
Gotcha.
from
So
that.
what the council usually do is just agree to what amount they're willing to spend on whatever the project ask is.
Mhm.
And then whoever is paying the bills will figure that out. And I would imagine it's the county that's gonna purchase equipment, but if it's the association itself, then you're just deciding which part of it you want to contribute to, if any.
Right, and I'm still waiting to see what the county, I was told that their budget, at least for the community center's budget for the year, which is understandable, is complete. But am I right to think that we will wait to see where the county's at and then join in from there?
Where's the county at, James?
I can respond to that if you like.
Thank you. That would be helpful. This should be more simple than,
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councilors. So James Yorkie, County Administrator. My understanding is that the community center's budget for the tennis courts is expended because we resurfaced within the last year. So we have zero balance in that line item. So if the city wants to contribute to the purchase of, I think, benches and nets is what the request was, we would welcome that because we don't have any funds set aside to do that.
and then just a process. So do you set aside a certain amount of money for them each year, or in general that can be allocated to things like this?
Over time, we have set aside funding for tennis court improvements, skate park improvements, playground improvements, et cetera. And so, like I said, with a resurfacing, we're zero.
For this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just was like going forward, how does?
And it tends to be nominal amount. So, you know, if the city's in a position to help cover this expense requested by the association, that would be helpful.
Should I put it on the next agenda so everybody can look at it?
Yes.
I don't know, has everybody seen it?
No, we really have, I mean, we haven't, because all that's come through is is email conversations, and we've certainly been through about the repaving, and I remember all those conversations from prior years, I mean, a while ago. But I wanted a refresher on how we went through all of that, and that was, of course, a lot more money. And there was a request also for them to make sure they were looking for all other sources of funding as well with this. So that's fine. I think that would.
The usual process is Rod Wannabu comes to our meeting and asks us for money.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
if he doesn't, I'm going to miss that, yeah.
No, this time it's not. And we do, Bob Pranis will be joining us for that.
That'll be fun.
So, all right, that is helpful. All right, that is all that I had. With that, we are adjourned.
Well, I got one more thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought you were going to let Michael go too, so.
Oh, no,
I'm good.
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry.
So,
I did.
I probably should have put a memo in the packet, but I was just so excited about this, I didn't. As you all remember, Neil is retiring at the end of the year. And I'm happy to report that we have selected a final candidate, made a job offer, and he is going to be starting next week. But we should probably actually hire him first. So if you wouldn't mind, please hire Scott Warner as water wastewater superintendent.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Any further questions, comments?
He'll be starting on the 4th. He'll be working 3 days a week through October and then starting full-time. So there'll be a nice crossover period between him and Neil where he can benefit from Neil's experience and knowledge about the system. Scott is currently a wastewater superintendent in New Prague, and we're really excited to have him.
Awesome.
I participated in the initial interview, not before he actually came here, so I put a little bit more in the know on that, and I was really appreciative of his energy and some experience coming to this, and I feel they're just, he can bring some new things to the plate, so very nice.
Yeah. One more vote now, that's all you got to do.
So, with that, take a roll call vote. Craig?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
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 There we
Thank
are.
you. And you'll
Thank
get a
you.
chance to meet him soon.
Great.
Yes.
Thanks.
That we are adjourned.